Hello, I'm Larry Greene, and welcome to We've Got Books. We're brimming with books, ideas, and barrels of fun. Anne Greene and myself, interviewer, technician, and husband of Anne Greene, are coming to you from the Dallas area of the great state of Texas, where we have friendly people, southern accents, gentlemen who hold doors open for ladies, and where you will hear the words sir and ma'am. We discuss great Christian fiction on our podcast. We feature exciting guest authors and their books, as well as my wife's books. We sit around the table chatting to get to know real authors and introduce their books. And now I'm ready to interview our own author and my lovely wife, Anne Greene, and her Scottish historical novel, Marriage by Arrangement. So grab your cola, cup of coffee or tea, and sit back and enjoy this stimulating ride into the literary world. So, Anne, before we get into the essential details of Marriage by Arrangements, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
I live in McKinney, Texas, and you, my dear husband, and I have 4 children and 8 grandchildren. I truly could not be a writer nor a podcaster without your support, my dear husband. We also have a sweet little Shih Tzu dog who sleeps in a comfortable chair in my office while I write.
You do have a talented and hardworking husband. So, Anne, what do you do in your spare time when you're not sitting in your office typing fast and furiously on a hot computer?
I'm trying to catch up with time. It flies away too fast. I sing in my church choir. I spend as much time as possible with my children and grandchildren, who are even busier than I am. I do aerobic dancing and try to take my sweet little Lily Valentine on walks to keep her in shape. I like to see my friends as often as possible and shop too much online. At night, I pick up a good book before dropping off to sleep. I really recommend reading at night to de-stress by getting away from all the electronics we use during our days.
I can attest you are busy, and we all need to de-stress. Now let's talk about your writing. Anne, you have about 40 published books. What do you love about being a fiction writer?
Writing fiction for me is like watching a movie in my imagination. My brain is filled with interesting characters. I choose one and give her an overwhelming problem. Then I sit back and watch how she overcomes. Often my characters do totally unexpected things, and my plot twists into an entirely new direction. The process is like magic. Watching my characters work out their problems is so much fun. I'm what's called a seat-of-the-pants writer, as opposed to the plotting writer.
What genre of Christian fiction do you write?
I write historical and contemporary romance and suspense. I write both standalone and series novels and novellas.
That's pretty extensive. So today we're spotlighting your second book in your Scottish historical series, Marriage by Arrangement. Is this a standalone book, or does the reader need to read your first book in this series, Masquerade Marriage, to understand the second?
That's a good question, Larry. A reader could read Marriage by Arrangement without first reading Masquerade Marriage, but reading the first book will give insight into Marriage by Arrangement.
Is there a movie or TV show reminiscent of your book?
The TV series Outlander. Marriage by Arrangement doesn't include any time travel, but my book is set in Scottish Highlands, much the same place as the Outlander series, and Marriage by Arrangement occurs after the Battle of Culloden, which is also shown in the Outlander series. My characters wear the same clothes, kilts and so forth, and feature handsome, rugged men as does the Outlander series. If you like Outlander, you'll love Marriage by Arrangement.
I know Marriage by Arrangement is one of my favorite books. Would you read the back cover copy of Marriage by Arrangement?
I'd love to, Larry. Marriage by Arrangement has a glossary in the beginning to explain English peerage because English gentry play a part in my book. I think our listeners might like to hear the ranks of the English elite. So here they are. Under the king, from high to low. Duke. After the royal family, the Duke ranks highest. The Duke is always addressed as Your Grace, though familiars may address him as Duke. He will never be addressed by his family name. Marquis. Next in line is the Marquis. He is also addressed by his title rather than his family name. If he is the Marquis of Queensberry, he is called Lord Queensberry rather than Lord Churchill or whatever his family name. His wife is the Marchioness. She may be called Lady Queensberry. Then comes Earl. Below the Marquis comes the Earl. His wife is the Countess, addressed by his title, not his family name, addressed as Earl of Spencer or Lord Spencer. His wife is addressed as Countess of Spencer or Lady Spencer. Then comes the Viscount. Below Earl is the Viscount. His wife is the Viscountess, never addressed as Viscount of Bradford, addressed as Lord Bradford or Bradford. Baron. The lowest inherited titled rank is Baron. His wife is a Baroness, simply addressed as Lord and Lady. Then last of all comes Sir. The lowest rank, and they're simply addressed as Sir, as in Sir Richard Burton. Knights are addressed as Sir, but the title is not inheritable. Dowager. When a titled lady is widowed, she becomes a dowager.
Fascinating.
Yes, I think so. And here's what the back cover says. Marriage by Arrangement. Why does a handsome, powerful duke in England stoop to marry a mere lady of lowland Scotland? Are the whispered stories about the duke true? With his shadowy past and strange behavior, what awful secret does he hide? Each change of clothes transforms him into a different man. Can Lady Caitlin keep her vow to make her marriage happy and successful, unlike that of her parents? Or, to save her unborn child, must she arrange for the Duke's accidental death?
That mystery draws me in. I'd like to hear an excerpt of Marriage by Arrangement.
Oh, I'd love to. This scene takes place in Castle Drummond, home of Lord and Lady McMurray, near the village of Kirkmichael in lowland Scotland, April 19th, 1746. We are in Cailin's point of view. I won't run. A shudder skipped down Lady Cailin McMurray's spine, and she stared at her younger sister. I'm committed. No, it's not too late for you to flee. You must, because I heard another scandalous rumor about Duke Avondale. Lady Megan McMurray grasped Cailin's arm. I won't listen to gossip. Cailin pulled away from her sister and lifted her wedding bouquet to inhale the white rose fragrance. If only the sweet scent could overcome Megan's words and her own misgivings. Though many arranged marriages turned out badly, surely God would give her a loving one. After all, since her earliest years, she'd prayed for a happily ever after love. Ask yourself why such a good, grand, and noble would stoop to marry a Scottish lass whose papa is but a baron. Why did he not choose the daughter of an English duke or a marquis or even an earl and receive ever so much more dowry and prestige? Megan tilted her head and lifted elegant brows. Why indeed? Kaylin clutched her enormous diamond engagement necklace. The thing felt heavy with responsibility. The man's an English duke. He owns palaces all over England. Megan planted her hands on her slender, mossy green, silk-covered hips. Every noblesse in the land should be offering to give her right arm to be in your shoes. And yet they are not. New knots formed in the nape of Kaylin's neck. She held her finger to her lips. Too late to turn back now. The wedding chorus has begun. She forced her feet to take the first step, and then began the slow glide from the stone castle's rear archway, through the garden, toward the rose arbor. 7 bridesmaids stopped giggling and chatting and moved to their places in front of Kaylin to head the procession. Beneath her veil, Kaylin smoothed her frown. Papa had chosen to take this path in light of the violent upheaval following England's latest battle with the Highlanders. Her marriage to the Duke would shelter her family with his great cloak of protection. Neither the English nor the Scots would dare invade a castle guarded by the powerful Duke's coat of arms. More goosebumps shivered down Kaylin's spine. Surely jealousy fueled the flagrant tittle-tattle. She pulled in a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and took measured steps in time to the music toward the loch, gleaming in the late afternoon sunlight. She would not let whispers spoil her wedding. She laid her hand lightly on her father's arm. Their procession passed the scores of guests assembled on both sides of the flowered path. Ahead, her groom stood beside the rose bower, sunlight from the loch gleaming on him, the pastor, and his groomsmen. Her heart fluttered. The Duke looked the perfect picture of manhood. He towered above his shorter groomsmen and the pastor. Sun glinting off his iceberg blue satin coat, heavily laced with gold, almost blinded her. His chocolate eyes gazed past the dazzling crowd of guests and focused on her. Beneath those beckoning eyes, the straight bridge of his nose above softly smiling lips formed the most handsome face she'd ever seen. Her pulse quickened. Butterflies flitted from her stomach to her heart and back. As she reached her groom and the music died, her high-heeled slippers sank into the grassy moor, but her foreboding dissolved like fog before the sunshine. Though she didn't know the man she wed, she repeated with all her heart to love, honor, and obey him as long as she should live. Marrying a man one had barely met happened more often than not to daughters of lords. So why were her knees shaking? Her attractive groom, with his mahogany hair, wide shoulders, and square jaw, held her hand gently in his warm, strong grasp. Rumors were just rumors. And truth be told, if he was not perfect, neither was she. Oh God, please let him love me. She would love him so greatly, with everything inside her heart. Surely he would love her in return. As the magnificent sunset painted him gold, the Duke's chestnut eyes stared into hers with promise. His inviting lips tipped upward at the corners, and his demeanor was affectionate and approving. Joy burst through her chest, and she gave him a brilliant smile. Yes, her marriage would be happy, a storybook marriage, like Cinderella's. The English parson the Duke had brought with him raised a hand in blessing. I now pronounce you man and wife. You may kiss the bride. She handed her heavy bouquet of roses and lilies to Megan and tipped her chin up. The tall, lithe young Duke stepped forward and lifted her expensive Brussels veil. She closed her eyes. He touched his lips to hers. Oh, her eyes flew open. The bridal kiss had been so short and disappointing. Their first kiss was like melding lips with someone on stage, acting a part. He dropped his arms and moved back. She swallowed. Though the cold kiss dropped a mantle of heaviness over her heart, she shook off the shroud and lifted her chin. She'd done her duty. Now the family was safe. She shivered. She had never felt so alone. She firmed her wobbly smile. Was the flesh and blood man she had pledged herself to somewhere inside this handsome facade? Or was this stranger playing the role of the real man? Who was this person to whom she was bound for life? Megan's last whispered words nagged her thoughts. Kaylin, you are too trusting. Where there are rumors, there must be a basis. I'm not sure Papa had your best interest in mind, wedding you to the Duke, but he certainly had his own.
Well, that's a tough situation Kaylin found herself in. What is the theme of marriage by arrangement?
When my first husband died, the Lord gave me this verse, and that's what I want people to take away from reading Marriage by Arrangement. Deuteronomy 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged.
Where can our listeners find Marriage by Arrangement?
Go to Amazon.com, type in Marriage by Arrangement by Anne Greene. That's ANNEGREENE. Or better yet, go to my website, AnneGreeneAuthor.com. All my books are listed there, and you will find Marriage by Arrangement. Click on the buy link.
And do you have a website or newsletter to let fans get to know you better?
Thank you, yes. Listeners can go to AnneGreeneAuthor.com. There they will find a short biography, pictures of different places I've been and things I've done, pictures of my oil paintings and covers of my books, along with their back cover copy, and a link to where they can be bought. Best of all, listeners can sign up for my newsletter and keep up to date on what's happening in my life, with my books, and with the books of other authors. I'd love for everyone to sign up for my newsletter. I often give away free books in my newsletter.
That sounds like a great place for listeners to go. Once again, the time has sped by, so we must say so long from deep in the heart of Texas, and hope you've enjoyed your time with Anne and me as much as we enjoyed having you. Join us next week when we spotlight Katrina Whitehead and her first book of her Legal Insanity series, The Caviar Caper. And don't forget to flip through our 50 other podcasts at We've Got Books and enjoy some of our other interviews with different authors. You can find Anne's podcasts on podcast hosts such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast host. Also, you can search for We've Got Books on YouTube, or you can go to Anne's website and click on the podcast tab and select one of those podcast hosts. So, this is Larry Greene with Anne Greene. Goodbye for now, and read a good book for education entertainment, or your continued good health. We hope you'll choose a book you learned about on one of our podcasts. See you next time.